Never give up. Never, never give up. That's a famous saying from Winston Churchill during World War II when his country was being relentlessly bombed. It's a small country, England. It's an island. And the enemy was just relentlessly hitting them every single night. And Winston Churchill brought his countrymen to a point where they believed that they could survive. Now, why do I tell you this story? It's because there's a lot going on in the world. I'm not going to talk about geopolitics. I'm talking about not giving up and what your attitude says about you during these very, very difficult times. And we are in difficult times, and I think we'll continue to be in difficult times for the foreseeable future. Well, let's take a look at what you can do to help others around you stay calm. Number one, I mentioned in a video not long ago, just get off the news and social media. Stop filling yourself with all these things. But if you're like me, you're looking at the news from a biblical standpoint, right? A biblical worldview. But the thing is that people need people like you and I to stay calm. Using the analogy or the story of Winston Churchill, he kept his countrymen calm during a time when nobody in the world believed that they could succeed. In your life, you've got people who are looking at you during very, very difficult times in your own personal life, and they're watching your every move. They're watching what you say. They're watching how you react to different things because they need that calmness from you. And I know you have it in you because you're here with me. You're hanging out with Popsy Guy, and this is what we talk about on this channel. We talk about inspiration. We talk about wisdom and experience, encouragement, and we have a little bit of a fun time doing it, a little sense of humor. But what I want you to do is to be able to take what you've learned throughout your life. You've seen some things. Trust me, I know you have. And you've come through these things. And a lot of the things that you've come through, you've done it silently. You haven't boasted. You haven't put it on Instagram or Facebook and said, look what I did. You did those things because you knew that that was really the only option that you had, and you succeeded. So what I'm suggesting in this video is for you to be calm and to never, never, never give up. Not only because that's the right thing to do, it's because people are watching, as I said. If you're a grandparent, your grandkids are watching. If you're a parent of adult kids and they're just getting on their own road to adulthood, they're watching. They're not saying, hey, well, in our case, specifically, my wife and I have agreed that we refrain from giving our adult children advice unless they ask for it. And guess what? They don't ask, but they watch. As they get older and as we get older, we realize that they've been watching us ever since they even knew who we were. They didn't come out right out from the womb saying, I'm watching you. But everything we did, they observed, and they took it as a blueprint for their life. That doesn't stop after your kids are grown or they have kids, moved out of the house, what have you. In our age group, 60 and over, we're still being watched. How are we handling what's happening in our lives right now? Because our lives are changing. Let's not kid each other. I remember when my mom passed away at 67. But I think she was in her early 60s, and here I am in my 30s thinking she's an old lady. She doesn't got much time to go. But she posted something on her wall, the joys of growing older, and it was a sarcastic list of all the things that are happening to older people as they age. And I laughed. I said, well, that's never going to happen to me. Joke is on me. It's happening as we speak. But I look back at how she handled those things. She handled those things with grace and humor, and here I am, how many years later, 25, 30 years later, talking about it. So that's a good example of somebody that had an impact on me that wasn't trying to have an impact on me, but it had a positive impact. So staying calm in these very turbulent times, and again, I'm not talking just what's happening geopolitically or in the United States economy or in what have you. I'm talking about what's happening in your own life, in your own house, with your own family right now. You are in chaos, you are in drama, you are in crisis. How do I know that? You're alive, aren't you? You get out of bed this morning, thank God, and you face the world, and all of a sudden things didn't go like the Hollywood script that you had in your mind was supposed to go. So how do you handle those things? Here's my recommendation. Handle them calmly. Breathe. I've done a recent video on the tongue and how the tongue can get us in trouble. It's the smallest object, but it has the biggest impact. In Scripture, it talks about the tongue in two ways. One, it's like the rudder of a great ship. It's the smallest part of the ship, but it determines where that ship goes. And the other analogy, or another example in Scripture about the tongue, is it's a match that can light a huge forest fire. A little itty-bitty match light a huge forest fire. So the recommendation is bite your tongue before you speak. When things start to really bubble up and everybody is heated, don't join in, step back, think about it, and then be calm. Say something reasonable at a reasonable voice, and people will stop and want to know what you just said. You know, years and years ago when I was in sales, one of the sales managers that I had, he said, you know, Dave, if you ever whisper, people will listen. I said, that doesn't make sense. He goes, well, I know it doesn't make sense. But when you say something in a whispered voice, people will lean in and say, what did you say? He said, conversely, when people are hearing you talk above their level, they automatically shut you out. And that's a life lesson, not just in sales or business. I'm talking about in raising a family. I'm talking about in maintaining relationships with your closest friends, is that you want to be thought of, at least I do, I hope you do too, as the calm one, as the one who is not overreacting. Because all of a sudden now, if you are the one who is thought of as overreacting, your advice, your counsel, your presence is not going to be sought, because all of that can be found just by turning on the TV. Here's a story. It goes way back when our kids were very little. I think my son was probably 6 or 7, or might have been, about 7. He was invited to a birthday party at an indoor soccer facility. And all the kids are running around, playing soccer, having a blast. Well, here I am, right? I'm in my early 30s. Fancy myself as quite the athlete. I played soccer in high school. It's only because I wasn't big enough for football. And I've got a buddy of mine who's got his son there, and he's way across the field. And I decide I'm going to try to do a cross-corner kick and land it beautifully right at his foot. And that was what was in my mind, right? I remember, I used to do this. And all of a sudden, guess who runs in front of the ball at the last second? My 7-year-old son. Bang! Right in the face. I mean, it's like slow motion. And guess what? His face just exploded. His nose blew out. I just scooped him up, brought him into the bathroom, stayed very calm, didn't let him look in the mirror, first of all, and then just wiped up the blood. And I stayed calm, and he wanted to lose it, but he didn't. And I'll tell you why he didn't. 2 things. One is I didn't lose it. I didn't flip out and say, oh my gosh, what have I done? My son. I just grabbed him, brought him in, cleaned him up. While we were in the bathroom, there was a man there who I'd never met before. He was just taking care of washing his hands. And he looked at my son and he goes, man, you're one tough kid. Good for you. Walked out. I thought that was so cool. Here's a guy I had never met helping me because I was calm. I get emotional thinking about these things because those things that happened to us decades and decades ago that we kind of forget about are the lessons that we learn that we need to continue to practice, because people are watching. Your kids are watching. Your grandkids are watching, right? I know the thing about grandparents is, oh, you get to sugar them up and crazy them and then you get to leave. No, not really. You get to work alongside in partnership with their kid, their parents who are your kids, in raising them and helping them understand, what calmness is, what goodness is, what breathing is, and not overreacting. So I just want to share with you because Winston Churchill has some great quotes. That one, I'll again tell you how I know that quote. I'm going back another 30 years when I first started in business, more than 30 years ago. I was in sales, and one of the sales guys who sat next to me had that quote over his phone, because at the time we were responsible for making cold calls, trying to set up appointments for the company. And his was never give up. Never, never give up. Didn't ask about it. I just thought it was a salesman thing to help him stay motivated. It wasn't until years later that I understood the premise behind that quote and what it really means not to give up and to move on. And I'll leave you with one last thing that I think is underrated about quotes Winston Churchill has left with us. He said, similar to what the scripture says about the tongue, he says, your attitude is a very small thing that makes a very big difference. So the encouragement for today is pay attention to your attitude. You get to decide when you wake up in the morning what your attitude is going to be. And the people around you, whether they say so or not, will reflect the attitude that you bring into any situation. So bring an attitude of gladness, bring an attitude of calmness, of thankfulness, and be polite. Say something nice to somebody you've never met before and move on. And don't expect a response. Don't expect any platitudes. That impact that you've made is something you'll never know. But I'm sure that that person will talk about it just like I am right now. So thank you very much for hanging out. Please feel free, if you haven't already, to leave me a comment. Consider subscribing and leaving a like. It really helps the algorithm. So thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.